All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, originally I was going to make this video a part of the Black Man Protect Your Seed series, but I decided to make it a part of the Gender War series, and of course it's going to star Miss Gayle King, and her adversary is going to be Mr. Jasper Williams, the reverend who was asked to handle the sermon in the aftermath of Aretha Franklin's death. Of course, he provided the sermon during her wake, and he touched on a lot of points that were crucial and that are pervading the so-called black community. In the process of him putting forth many of these sentiments, of course, they were a digression. He was meant to just heap a whole bunch of platitudes upon Aretha Franklin and lionize her and deify her because she is one of the mother goddess figures in this society, or at least she was, especially starting from the 1960s. But he went on an aside and started to touch on a lot of issues in the so-called black community that he felt like should have been spoken on. And I'm going to handle many of his statements in another video, but in regards to this video, I want you brothers to pay very close attention to how upset not only Gayle King became because of his assertions, but also Norah O'Donnell. As I tell you brothers all the time, behind the liberal black woman and liberal black man is the liberal white man and white woman. In this case, of course, Gayle King is a so-called black woman. So behind her will be Norah O'Donnell, cheering her on to try to get Jasper Williams back in line. Once again, so-called black man, the liberal black woman, I say this incessantly, she has three altars. She has the globalist altar, she has the racialist altar, and she has the feminist altar. Number one is the feminist altar. The liberal black woman will side with the liberal Caucasian woman before she sides with you. That's the bottom line of it. But let's see what occurs here. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Aretha Franklin's family says the controversial eulogy delivered at the Queen of Soul's funeral was offensive and distasteful. Reverend Jasper Williams Jr. took aim at the Black Lives Matter movement during last week's service. AKA
the Black Lesbians Matter movement, because that's really what it is. And I tell you brothers this all the time. You should go on their website, the Black Lives Matter website, and you can read point by point what their end game is, what they're concerned with. They're not concerned with you, so-called black man. You're only an aside. What they're truly concerned with is trying to make sure that they can fully institute all black pansexual female leadership in the so-called black community. That's what it's really about. That's why you have Janelle Monáe stepping out, and that's why you have her girlfriend Tessa Thompson stepping out. And a lot of these other females, of course, you see Rihanna and Nicki Minaj, who go out of their way to portray fluidity with their gender role, with their sexuality. That's why you see them trying to push and promote Lena Waithe. Of course, certain people say that she's actually a man who's a tranny or whatever. Doesn't matter. The point being is that they're trying to push the image of the pansexual black female as the leader in the so-called black community. That's what the Black Lives Matter movement is really about. They're not concerned with you, black men. They're not concerned with you at all. It's just they're going to use your death, oftentimes at the hands of police, to try to get attention for themselves, so that whenever you see any type of rabble-rousing or protesting on TV, you associate that with homosexual men, but most importantly, lesbian black women. So that is what I believe Jasper Williams saw. And look, all that being said, he's a top-level pastor. He's a Luciferian as well. But at least he addressed it.
Service, causing singer Stevie Wonder to shout out in protest. Williams also suggested that...
And Stevie Wonder is another big Saturnian. He even had a song called Saturn.
...that single black mothers could not properly raise their sons.
As proud, beautiful, and fine as our black women are, one thing a black woman cannot do. A black woman cannot raise a black boy to be a man.
One black man in the back clapped. You tell it, brother. Now, all these people in the audience, look how they had no reaction. But they'll be the same ones telling the so-called black man what his responsibilities are. They'll say, how come you black men don't raise your children? But when Jasper Williams says it, they respond with a lack of a response. So once again, so-called black men, you're the number one troll target on the planet Earth. All people do is troll you, and they harass you with your quote-unquote shortcomings. And there's nothing that you can do to please them. So that means you know what the solution is. You don't live your life for anybody else. You live your life for the Most High and for yourself, and for the people that the Most High brings into your life for you to love. You don't live your life for society at large to impress them, because you are the #1 troll target, because they know who you are. As Draymond Green alluded to so well, they know that our people are something special, particularly you, so-called black men. But there's nothing that you can do to gain their favor, because for a so-called black man to stand there in the front, even if he's supposed to be eulogizing Aretha Franklin, all he did was step out in an aside to address an issue that is pervasive in the so-called black community, an issue that we know is real, and he was met with this level of antipathy, as quiet as it was. Nobody was there to support him. Of course, that's something that we have to resolve, and it's far more important than Aretha Franklin. No disrespect to the sister, but she's in the spirit world now. So what he said was right and exact. Let me rewind it back just a little.
What? Black Lives Matter movement during last week's service, causing singer Stevie Wonder to shout out in protest. Williams also suggested that
Stevie Wonder can go sit his ass down somewhere and wave his hair back and forth, whip that damn receding hairline braid having head of his back and forth, and talk shit. Forget him. Nothing against that brother. He's a musical genius, but he's a Saturnian as well. All right? He's a Saturnian.
that single black mothers could not properly raise their sons.
As proud, beautiful, and fine as our black women are, one thing a black woman cannot do. A black woman cannot raise a black boy to be a man.
I keep bugging out over that one black man in the back to start clapping. Thank you, Jasper. Thank you. Finally, somebody spoke the truth. And you see that cross that Jasper Williams has on, that has nothing to do with Christ, that has to do with Tammuz. Okay? All of the top pastors, they're all Luciferians. They're all quote-unquote Masons. And that's why you'll find that in the process of trying to ratchet up the civil rights movement, all the Marxists, they recruited the top black preachers located all over America, particularly down south, because they were the people who knew how to enrapture so-called blacks, and they were the leadership. So the entire leadership of the so-called black community have been worshipers of Tammuz. For those of you who don't know who Tammuz is the Semitic name for Heru or Horus. Right? That's what that T stands for. That's what the T is in reference to. Is in reference to Tammuz, the quote-unquote cross, or even the X, what they call the St. Andrew's cross, is the symbol for Asar or Osiris. Okay? Luciferianism is meant to mirror the right-hand path. The left-hand path always mirrors the right-hand path. But just to get back to the point, what Jasper Williams said was right and exact. And it's good that it came from him. But most importantly, what I wanted to hone in on, so-called black man, is that you cannot live your life wanting to convert people into liking you. Because once again, the so-called black man is the #1 troll target on the planet Earth. Not even a close second.
What? Yeah, I beg to differ on that one. Franklin's nephew.
Of course you beg to differ, Gayle King, because you're a super liberal, Luciferian black woman in America. So you're not allowed to give the so-called black man credit. And when I say those things, I'm not talking about all black women. I'm talking about the super liberal ones. What woman in her right mind will be so concerned about trying to prove that she could raise a young boy to be a man? Wouldn't you think that that's inordinate? For the single fathers out there, you don't think that they would prefer to have a woman who could instruct their daughter on how to be a woman, because there are just certain things as a man that you don't know. You can't understand or comprehend when your daughter starts to receive her menstrual cycle, or braiding her hair, things of that nature, that an older female figure is supposed to be able to impart upon her how to handle those issues and handle those things. When your daughter's body first starts to mature, what type of bra to buy and things of that nature. As a man, what man in his right mind would say, yeah, I could raise a girl into a woman just as good as a woman can? Why would you even think like that unless you had a mental illness? So once again, brothers, that's why I say you have to stop arguing with the woman all over the internet. Right? Like when I was a child and we would get on the train, you know, my father, my mother, they would always tell me, when you see a person who's not mentally stable talking to themselves and acting crazy, you don't give them attention. You don't talk to them. You don't argue with them. A lot of you guys go back and forth with the woman in these comment boards on that gender war shit. And a woman who's that concerned about trying to prove that she could raise a man by herself, that's somebody who's not mentally stable. Psychologically, they're not right. And it's only going to affect their child down the line. It's just that they're a functioning nut job. That's it. Okay? That's it. I'm going to wind it back again.
Stevie Wonder to shout out in protest. Williams also suggested that single black mothers could not properly raise their sons.
Now, unfortunately, in this society, the concept of being a quote-unquote single black mother is now a title of honor, as opposed to being a scarlet letter, proverbially speaking. At one time, if a woman was single and had to raise the children by herself, that was something that she was scared to admit or acknowledge or be a part of. But now it's a badge of honor. It's actually preferable for the woman to raise the child by themselves. That's why they tend to try to sabotage their relationships after they have the child, after they get pregnant. They'll try to act like they don't, but subconsciously that's how they're programmed.
As proud, beautiful, and fine as our black women are, one thing a black woman cannot do. A black woman cannot raise a black boy to be a man. She can't do what?
Now, Nora O'Donnell said, what? Why is it her place to speak on that for? She should be quiet.
Yeah, I beg to differ on that one. Franklin's nephew said the family chose Williams because he spoke at other family funerals, including for Franklin's father. He said Aretha did not discuss the funeral plans.
What place did that have in the midst of a celebration of Aretha Franklin?
Exactly.
Well, what place do you have to address a so-called black man speaking on black issues at an event like this that he knew was going to get a lot of attention, to put out that energy towards the so-called black man? What place do you have to speak on that? Other than the feeling that you have that you can interject yourself because you're a super liberal Caucasian woman and you're into idolatry. You idolize Aretha Franklin, most likely in a very fake way. You know how when these celebrities die, everybody acts like they're such big fans of theirs, and you're just supposed to bow down to them. Nothing against Aretha Franklin. All she was a singer. That's all. And she was raised in a Luciferian household, but that's another video for another day. But she was that mother goddess archetype for the 1960s, or at least one of them. Raised up in that Tammuz coven with her demonic father, C.L. Franklin, having orgies, pansexual orgies, with that dude Martin Luther King in tow, allegedly. But once again, I'll be covering that in another video. Point being is this, the sister, she's in the spirit world right now. Jasper Williams put out a good message. But you see the response from a lot of these liberal females, so-called black men.
Exactly.
By the way, that it being offensive.
And that's the point that...
That's being offensive? Offensive to who? Who's that offensive to? I'm offended that your face is more red than your lipstick.
The point that they're making.
Yeah, right. Vaughn Franklin said in a statement, quote, Reverend Williams spoke for 50 minutes and at no time did he properly eulogize her. He said it pushed a negative...
I watched the entire eulogy and I thought that Reverend Williams did a relatively good job until the end, when he went into his own Luciferian globalist ideologies about accepting homosexuals and things of that nature. Other than that, he did a good job. If you're a reverend, then you have to stick with the scriptures. The scriptures do not say to accept a lot of these ideologies, transgenderisms and homosexuals and lesbians. He had to go into that because, once again, the church is a business. But he did a very good job pertaining to that message that he put forth to the so-called black man, to preside over his child and over his children, and to take back control of the household. And the woman that you procreate with has to understand that. And if she shows that she's going to deviate from that, you cut her off. Let me wind this back.
Agenda.
What? Yeah, I beg to differ on that one. Franklin's nephew said the family chose Williams because he spoke at other family funerals, including for Franklin's father. He said Aretha did not discuss the funeral plans.
What place did that have in the midst of a celebration of Aretha Franklin?
Exactly.
By the way, that it being offensive.
And that's the point.
It's offensive. It's offensive. That damn orange mop top look like Ronald McDonald. Just be quiet and let the man talk.
That's the point that they're making.
Yeah, Right. Vaughn Franklin said in a statement, quote, Reverend Williams spoke for 50 minutes and at no time did he...
Not 15. He spoke for 50 minutes. Okay? About as long as you spend in a tanning bed so that you don't look like a ghost on national television.
He properly eulogized her. He said it pushed a negative agenda, which the family does not agree with.
Now listen to that. According to Vaughn Franklin's statements, Jasper Williams was pushing a negative agenda when he stated that a black woman cannot raise a man. Why is that? Because you have an entire generation of so-called black men or males who have been raised by women who get offended at the thought that the man should be the head, should be the lead. And that's why I state that the woman, the so-called black woman in particular, is so unaccustomed to being told that she's not supposed to be the head or the leader of the household. Now she has drones in the form of males that were raised in these matriarchal households to come and defend her honor. Just like a beehive, when it's attacked, the drones protect the queen bee. So this is the condition of the battle, so-called black man. In order for you to take back control over the black community, so-called black community, over the so-called black household, you have to address the simp, and you have to address that queen bee mentality. So it's going to be a very, very long road to hoe, but it's not going to be that complex. We already know who the targets are.
With Williams defended his remarks. He told the Associated Press he respects the family's opinion, saying, I understand that, but I'm sorry they feel that way.
In other words, Jasper Williams knew that what he was saying was correct. He knew that it would offend people, and oh well.
It's another example of how not to apologize.
No, that was his way of saying, I know that I'm right, but I know that you're offended because you have demons on you when it comes to that issue. Whenever you say that a so-called black man should be leading in any way, people get offended. Whenever you make these type of statements, the same statements that other demographics make, they just get upset when a so-called black man says it. If he had been a female pastor and she got on stage and said that us women, we do a great job, but we need our men to run the household, everybody in the audience would have started clapping, and it would not have been a news story. So it's not about the message, it's about the messenger that's offensive.
Of giving a good apology, that certainly wasn't it. You know, people could say he might have raised some good points, but that was not the place to do it, and I think that's why people are very upset with him.
Well, Gayle King, if you're saying that certain people will say that he made very good points, why would you say right after the clip ended that you disagree? That means that you disagree with very good points. Because just for you to say that certain people will say that he made very good points, you know that what he said was not incorrect. You're just upset because you feel like he's taking away some of your shine as the black mother goddess.
With him today.
Beyonce.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. Just be aware and cognizant of that fact that these people, they like to troll so-called black men. So you can't be too concerned about what they like and what they think. All right, we know what we have to do, or at least you should. We have to do the right thing based off of general principles, not trying to win anybody else over. To hell with them. But anyway, peace.